Is the Prime Minister's voice coach a key worker?
You may not have been able to visit a newborn baby or watch your grandmother die in hospital, but Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK's larynx, why, that is an issue of international importance. Hello there, you awake and wonder. Thank you for joining me every day, Monday to Thursday, for a Rumble stream on Stay Free, where we talk about things that matter, like hypocrisy and deception, like globalist leaders who claim they care for you, breaking the rules that they endorse. During the pandemic, the Labour Party, that's our centre-left globalist party that runs the UK, weren't in power. And they derided and condemned Boris Johnson, centre-right politician, for breaking COVID rules. They had parties, they had fun, they had a gay old time of it there in Westminster and Downing Street while you were locked in your home, serf, while you were told what to do. Let's have a look at how this story broke in the UK about Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir Starmergeddon, having voice coaching during the pandemic. And you might think, oh, this is a while ago, but it's a litmus test for how they conduct themselves. We're always talking about moral authority and righteousness and ethics and how people behave now and how people behaved in the past. Well, here are people with actual power. And by power, I mean the ability to tax you and take your money and send it to a foreign country to perpetuate a war. By power, I mean the ability to ensure that people without trial can be incarcerated in Belmarsh. That's Julian Assange, of course. I'm talking about real economic and military power. So their morality matters. At least that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Let's take a look at this Keir Starmer story about lawbreaker Keir and his larynx adjustments during a time of respiratory pandemic, apparent respiratory pandemic.
About another story, the Prime Minister was asked.
This is a British equivalent of one of those morning shows you have in America with a former Chancellor, I believe, Ed Balls, or at least Shadow Chancellor, who became secondarily famous when he went on one of those dancing shows that people go on and make you realise they were never serious about politics in the first place. Let's see what he says now as a media stooge about this subject. And I've not watched it yet, so maybe he gives a brilliant line of inquiry and analysis. Let's see.
The Prime Minister was asked about it last night. It's in a new book by Patrick Maguire, Gabriel Pogren, called Get In.
Get in. That's what we've got to do. Get in. Once we get in, then we can govern fairly and justly and help people, which is what we're all about. Get in. So it's a new book about the tactics deployed by Labour to get in to office. Astonishing.
Concerns what happened at Christmas 2020 during the lockdown. Boris
Also, get in is what you had to do. Get in your house. Also, get in is what those vaccines had to do into your arm. Get in. Get in line. Do as you're told. Don't ask any questions. And if you do ask questions, we got a policy for that as well.
Boris Johnson had announced that London and the South East had gone into full lockdown again. And that book reports that on Christmas Eve, the Prime Minister had a visit from his voice.
Christmas Eve visit? Who is he? Scrooge? On Christmas Eve, you will be visited by the ghost of Christmas present? No, a voice coach. No one likes that nasal droning voice you've got, Keir. It's annoying people.
Oh, no, it is annoying, isn't it?
The return of the sausages, the hostages.
His voice coach called Leonie Malinger, and that...
Come in, Leonie Malinger. Oh, just don't talk. Not till we've done the session. Please, sorry, Leonie. Please keep 6 feet away.
I'll give you more than 6 feet, you little weirdo.
Oh, sorry about that. Just help me with my voice.
She qualified, according to the book, for key worker status. At that time, we weren't allowed to meet families and friends in more than groups of 6, and people weren't going to work other than for key workers. When you look up the definition of key worker at the time, these were people delivering vital frontline services.
Quick! It's an emergency! What is it? Keir Starmer's voice is annoying. It's not like food. It's not like a St. Bernard rescuing someone in the snow on an alpine range. Help me! Help me! What?
Yes, what is it?
My voice is a bit annoying. It's not like that guy that had to saw his arm off because he was trapped in a creek. Help me, help me. I need vocal support. My voice is a bit annoying. Keir Starmer's voice might be a bit annoying, but it's not an emergency, and helping it to be less annoying is not key work, particularly when what he says with his still annoying voice is mostly lies, incendiary rhetoric, which prioritises the encroachment on free speech and the penalisation of free speech over, for example, inquiring into rape gangs.
Don't look into that rape gang.
No, what did you say?
Don't do an inquiry into those rape gangs.
Can you just... I can't understand what you're saying.
I said, don't post that on Facebook or you're looking at 5 years.
As a health minister, talking all the time to nurses, to care workers, key workers, if they are angry that at the time the Prime Minister's voice coach was treated as a key worker and say, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. What would you say to them?
Look, it was a terrible time for all of us, wasn't it? And we're starting to see again the sort of mudslinging that we saw before by some of the Conservatives.
Yeah, it's a terrible time, because of mudslinging. We all remember it was mostly the mudslinging. No, it wasn't mudslinging that was annoying. What it was a globalist coup that put people in their homes, shamed people if they wouldn't take medicine, controlled information and normalised the control and censorship of free speech online, that demonstrated integration of government agencies like the FBI, CIA and presumably British equivalents into social media sites that normalise the idea that the government should be in control of what you're able to discuss. People that had vaccine injuries were shamed and censored, and still to this day vaccine companies have indemnity, and any payouts that the vaccine injured, because they have been injured, receive will come from the same government, ultimately making us pay for this stuff like 2 or 3 times while encroaching continually on our freedoms. It weren't about mudslinging, it was about corruption.
Around that at this time when we know that there were actual real parties going on at this time.
Real parties, real parties is the problem. Real parties, voice coaches, it amounts to the same thing. You lot do this, we're going to do that because we're better than you and we understand reality better than you. How else could we make claims to be able to control your free speech or demand that you take medications or demand that you fund foreign wars or put you in jail for speaking openly or any of the thousands of everyday corruptions that flow out of centralised power? How could we legitimise it except unless we thought we were better than you and therefore exempted from rules that you serf class, have to obey? We couldn't do it. So what this story does is just exposes something that you all know to be true, that you've always known to be true. They think they're better than you. They think they should be able to control you. They say there is no God, so they can lay claim to the power that only that God can responsibly handle. Free speech is under attack, but Rumble Premium refuses to back down. That's why you should use Rumble Premium. Support content creators like me, and him, and him, and him, and him. I'm going to say and her, but is there one? And her? Oh. That's good. And her. With major advertisers conspiring to pull their dollars, even brands like Dunkin' Donuts turned their back, claiming Rumble had a right-wing culture. We're not here to fit a mold. We're here to defend free expression. To strengthen this mission, we're excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits. Grow up. For viewers and creators. It's more than a subscription. It's a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. For a limited time, you can get $10 off an annual plan using the promo code BRAND. Visit rumble.com/premium/brand and claim your discount today. Together we can turn the tide, whether you join Rumble Premium or simply keep watching. Your support helps keep free speech alive. Go to rumble.com/premium/brand and use the code BRAND to get $10 off.
Going on at this time.
And I'm not a Conservative, and I'm just reporting what's in the book. I'm just asking, factually, is the Prime Minister's voice coach a key worker?
His voice is quite annoying. I mean, have you heard his voice? Make Britain a better place. Oh, yeah, no, it's kind of an emergency. It's kind of.
The return of the sausages.
Please, it's Christmas Eve, and we've got to do something about the sausages. I mean, hostages.
On Christmas Eve 2020, yes or no?
So my understanding of the Tier 4 at that time in London is that people were working, and that this was part of working for presentations that the now Prime Minister had to make.
Well, I actually think if you look up the definition of key worker at the time, it was those needed to run the justice system, religious staff, charities and workers delivering key frontline services. and in government, administrative occupations, delivering effective delivery of the COVID-19 response.
Actually, your voice is quite annoying. You should get a voice coach yourself. Now, listen, this is what I consider to be, like, maybe voice coaching is absolutely vital when these various conduits of propaganda and deception are conveying their duplicitous message.
Is the Prime Minister's voice coach vital to delivering a key frontline service or the effective delivery of the COVID-19 response? Because that is a key worker.
So my understanding is that at that time at Tier 4 in London, that people were at work for work-related reasons.
So not just key workers?
My understanding is that people are at work for work-related reasons.
So when the book says that...
How exhausting to be a contemporary politician and just have to hold aloft an umbrella of perpetual deception continually. My understanding is that it's keywords. I'm just exhausted. That's a person who presumably had goals and aims in life to get into government, to make a difference, to represent maybe the interests of women or the dispossessed. There could be countless various ways that a person might, with idealism, enter into politics. And what do you find yourself doing? Just reiterating some dumb, emphatic lump of language to protect the corrupt and ensure that varieties of corruption can continue as usual, whoever is in a position of power. Because while we're talking about that, what we're not talking about is, wait a minute, weren't we censoring people during that pandemic period for talking about their own actual vaccine injuries? Weren't we locking people in their homes? Doesn't this point to the fact that there is some kind of weird ulterior global power that temporarily and inadvertently revealed itself during that COVID pandemic when governments across the world cooperated in merry tyranny, whether it was in Canada with the truckers or in the UK with the lies, or Gavin Newsom with his parties, or the enormous corporations that made tremendous profits, or the revelation that Bill Gates is somehow involved in all of this and manufacturing vaccines and donating to the WHO, and that across the world there are systems of power that conceal themselves. And this explanation that this politician is offering is part of the masquerade and facade that defines contemporary politics and power as the real forces manoeuvre behind it, ensuring that we remain controlled, unable to act with sovereignty and potency.
That it was okay because she was a key worker. You're saying it was okay because she was a worker, whether she's a key worker or not.
I can't comment on the book or where the journalists had that information from. I mean, that is a bit of a hypothetical for me at this point.
OK.
Yeah, well, it's all hypothetical if there is no actual moral authority at the heart of leadership.
Possible.
Here is Keir Starmer, the man with the most flexible larynx in Westminster, saying that if he was ever found guilty of breaking COVID rules, he would resign.
But if the police decide to issue me with a fixed penalty notice, I would, of course, do the right thing and step down.
It was politically expedient to say that then, because Boris Johnson was found to have done wrong in having all those parties when he was the Prime Minister. One thing I would say is that Keir Starmer's voice during that sounded...
Ever since the first COVID lockdown, I've always followed the rules. In that time, the British people have made heart-wrenching sacrifices. People were left desperately...
He's so close to saying sausages again, isn't he? Keir Starmer famously said sausages when he meant hostages. That means that he can probably never be allowed in Middle Eastern peace negotiations again.
I will not leave here till I get every last sausage.
Just give him the sausages. Make sure they're halal. No, don't even do that.
The sausages.
They were separated from family and friends. Tragically, many were unable to see dying loved ones.
Many were unable to have even the most rudimentary vocal coaching, and one man I know in Leicestershire was at least an octave too low when speaking to his greengrocer from 6 feet away through an unnecessary mask. 6 feet was unnecessary at all. La 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 la!
This was a collective sacrifice.
I was involved. I barely had any voice lessons. La 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 la!
People were entitled to expect that politicians would follow the same rules as everyone else.
La 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 la!
When my mother-in-law passed away suddenly just before the lockdown,
I immediately went to a voice coach and said, can you please coach some sort of never-ending living spirit out of this woman? Can you raise her up from the dead? How good a voice coach Are you? Do you even know it's Christmas?
My wife and I were unable to provide her father with the support we wanted to afterwards because we followed the rules.
La 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 la.
Barely a day has passed where we haven't agonised over that decision. But we did it because we followed the rules.
So you better hope those rules are not being set by corrupt globalist interests, by unelected bodies like NATO or the WEF. I will do whatever my overlords demand I do. La 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 la!
We all found the rules frustrating at times, and I'm no exception to that. I had to isolate 6 times during COVID.
I wish you'd fucking isolate now.
Pulling me away from my work and the things that I love.
I could barely put anyone in prison for free speech or condone any rape gangs at all for the entire time I was on lockdown. La 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 la!
But I did it because we followed the rules. The idea that I would then casually break those rules is wrong. And frankly, I don't believe those accusing me believe it themselves. They are just trying to feed cynicism, to get the public to believe all politicians are the same.
I mean, they are though, aren't they? And that does feed cynicism. My cynicism feels really nourished by that speech, by that grandiosity, by the poor delivery of the sentiment. They're just trying to be like gits. They're worms in Satan's bum.
I'm here to say that they're not. I believe in honour, integrity, and the principle that those who make the laws must follow them.
So people actually do know what you're supposed to do. It's just they don't do it. Huh.
And I believe that politicians who undermine that principle undermine trust in politics.
Here we go. He's getting somewhere. He's going to say something now that he's going to have to act on.
Undermine our democracy and undermine Britain.
And should therefore...
I'm absolutely clear that no laws were broken. They were followed at all times. I simply had something to eat while working late in the evening.
I was simply snacking away on a voice coach. She tickling my larynx, I hers. I have an unusual shaped family. Hey, who's to judge the way I get my clothes or what donations are made and what I consider to be vital? All corruption can be understood in one man's piety and righteousness, in his confidence and certainty that it's his opponents that feed cynicism while he feeds hope. How must he reframe that speech made then, now that we know that he did break the rules? And wouldn't a person with the integrity that he lays claim to there absolutely resign right now? Or are we going to believe that a vocal coach is a key worker and that Keir Starmer's voice is like the harp of David, playing mellifluous melodies of absolute truth into the heart of the governed? I find that a little difficult to believe, but maybe I just ain't got the right voice coach. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat?
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.